Welcome back to the Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and tonight I'm joined by Kevin McCluskey, Ryan Pearce, and Sean Connolly. Guys, we weren't going live at the time of Tony Mowbray's 4-0 humbling at Love Street. This is that moment for Nancy. Trigger warning for anybody who is afraid of pylons. This is not a drill. It's over. Simple as that. It's over, Sean. This ain't going to get any better. The project didn't work. Tisdale goes tonight. Nancy can follow him. Simple as that.
Yes, it's hard to argue with that. As soon as the second goal went in, it seemed that was the only possible outcome, and that was about an hour into the match, and that gave us about 30 minutes to start looking up historical stats for how bad we've been. I suspect we'll spend very little time actually talking about the specifics of the game tonight, so I'll just cover it very briefly. We didn't get a shot on target in the first half. We were the most entertaining thing of the whole evening was us at halftime trying to come up with adjectives beginning with the letter D to describe what was going on tonight. Some of the ones, if you want to go back and listen, we came up with things like disorganized, disinterested, desperate, dreadful, and that continued in the second half. We came alive with 3 subs at halftime. We came alive for about 90 seconds, and then as soon as Motherwell got a counter attack on us, we just reverted to desperation. We picked up 3 yellow cards in the space of 5 minutes, and they were just like stupid things like going in late, tugging jerseys, and just Motherwell looked like we were playing Roma again. And Motherwell, when you think about it, to add some context to just tonight's game, right? Our squad is probably earning, it's estimates, right, but about $500,000 a week in player salaries, probably about $500,000 a week. There's not a single player in that Motherwell team who earns $500,000 in a year. So our whole squad is getting paid more in a week than any Motherwell player is getting paid in a year. So, and that's the difference here. And just I'll go into it a bit deeper, but later but it was just so bad, man. Like they're just losing possession all over the place. Players just not running, not moving. There was just nothing to mitigate that performance. In the second half, we get 2 shots on target. Negron one is a good save, but there was no point we felt like we were going to come back to even get a draw. Like it was, as soon as the second goal went in, we're like, oh well, that's it. We've lost this game. There was no way back, and it didn't, because there's no evidence to that point. And again, we talked about it at halftime. The players at the moment are less than the sum of their parts. They are the manager is making them somehow worse than they would be if we just had the kit man name a starting 11 and send them out.
The players have not bought into it, Sean. Now, I'm not going to get personal with Nancy, right? It's not his fault that we identified him, the talent spotter identified him, brought him over from the MLS and gave him this position. He's not going to say no. Timing was shocking. The appointment's been dreadful. It's 5 defeats and 7. There's no getting away from the fact that that's unacceptable, Kevin. And, there's going to be people making excuses for this. There are going to be people saying this is a pylon. All I'm interested in is Celtic. Now, if the manager's not up to the task, he goes. If the head of football operations is not up to the task, he goes. If the chief executive officer and chief financial officer aren't good enough, they can go as well. But seriously, tonight, if you want to have any chance of winning the league, because we've just blown the opportunity to go top tonight, equal with Hearts. If you want to have any chance of winning anything this season, we've got to make that change, and we've got to make it now. Even if it is Sean Maloney and Steve McManus and Mark Fotheringham back into position just to try and stabilise this, because zoom in on Luke McCown at the end of the game. Try and read his lips. These players are not happy in this system, Sean. This is only going to get worse.
Yeah, man, it's bad. Like I said, we just got this. Stopped watching the football. I didn't stop watching, but I was like, there was no hope for the football. So I was like, I pulled up the AGM report from September. Here's some quotes. First team labour costs were the highest levels in the history of the club currently. 42.6 million was invested in player acquisitions during the year. That's this current squad. The carrying value of the squad is the highest it has been in the history of the club. And that's what was on the pitch tonight, apparently.
Well,
So
see the thing.
I think Ryan mentioned at halftime 9 of the starting 11 started against United.
No, but the point you're making, Sean, the manager is making the group of players worse. I mean, you could spend your entire week arguing the toss on social media. There are people basically standing up for the manager saying it's not his fault, it's the group of players, it's the lack of quality. Well, this is the worst of the 3 managers we've had this season. This is the worst that group of players have performed. Kevin, there is no other option at this moment in time. We're going into a game against Rangers, and I keep saying it. It started off as tongue-in-cheek. Auchinleck Talbot. I'm telling you, this team, right? Let's not wait for an Inverness Cali Thistle moment. This is a St Mirren moment. We've got to make a decision. It's got to be made. The board aren't bold at decision-making, and they won't make the decision because they'll be waiting on Dermot Desmond making a decision, Kevin. But they've got a growth set. This decision's bigger than every single one of them at the football club. It's more important than all their salaries. This is about Celtic, right? Falling off a cliff. And they are watching it happen. The only way we would keep this going is through sheer vindictiveness of the decision makers. It's got to change. And this isn't knee-jerk. I've suffered like everybody else watching the last 7 games. And we won against Aberdeen, we won against Livingston. And people saw it almost as a turning point. This has been a tipping point tonight, Kev. We've got to make a decision. Simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think before the game and at half-time, I'd kind of mentioned that, well, up until that first half, I was prepared to give Nancy the benefit of the doubt. For all the reasons that we've listed before, about just not having the players to suit his system and the wrong time to bring him in, which might not have been his doing. And there's arguments and cases that could be made for that. But if you go back and you review all the 7 games, we've had moments in each of the games up until tonight, and probably actually maybe the cup finals another one we could throw out. But we've had moments in most games where we've looked really good going forward, and some of the play has been like a joy to watch, but it's only really been for a 5-10 minute spell. Then we've just kind of gone back into this chaos football. Every single second half, we seem to collapse. We don't know what we're doing when we come out after the half time. And yeah, we've got to this point. Celtic do not lose 5 games out of 7. If that happens, something has to go. And unfortunately, it has to be the manager because he's the one that's supposedly coaching the players, setting the tactics, motivating the players to go out and play. None of that 11 looked like they knew what they were doing today. They're literally all over the place. As I said at halftime, you've got Ralston, who's the right back at one moment popping up, almost challenging Liam Scales at left back for a ball, which is leaving Trusty exposed the whole time. I mean, there's moments where you've got your 2 wide wide centre backs pushing forward as wingers, and you are left with Trusty as the one centre back. How can you watch that as a manager and think that you're making improvements and think that that's working? You can't. We sit and watch it just as armchair fans, really, and we know that it's not working. We can put forward loads of suggestions as to how you change that, how you bring about stability into that defence and into the team. But we know the manager's not going to change it because he's come in as a manager with a system. He's determined to make it work here, but it's just clearly not going to work. He doesn't have the players to make it work. He doesn't have the ability, it looks like, to change that himself. So he has to go. That's the only option that we can make. But again, I think you're right when you say it, Paul. I don't think the board has got the testicular fortitude, as John Hughes would say, to make that call. They won't do it. Desmond seems to probably be someone that would dig his heels in this as well, and they won't make the decision now. They'll see it as being knee-jerk to let a manager go after 7 games, but it's not. When it's clearly not working, it's not knee-jerk. Take Bayer Leverkusen as the example. They got rid of Ten Hag after 2 or 3 games because it was obvious he was the wrong fit. Nancy's the wrong fit. He could go on and have a really good career as a manager somewhere else, but sadly, it's not going to be here. Right. Time's up. Sorry.
Well, this is the thing, and I've covered enough games now, Ryan. We've been covering the games live. This is our 6th season. To know that you've got to be composed, particularly after a disappointing evening, a disappointing result. But, you know, I've been here before with managers. I've been here before with Neil Lennon, who was a player and a manager who I absolutely adored, who had massive credit in the bank. There just comes a moment where you're thinking, right, don't know why those players are not playing for you. This is not going to turn round. And there's a feeling, there's a mood in the camp. And I don't think Nancy's ever had these guys on board. They've never bought into whatever it is he's selling. Now, as I say, I'm not going to get personal with the guy. He's in the wrong movie, Ryan. He's in the wrong movie. And if Celtic want to get anything out of this season, anything, any kind of success, they've got to act. But as I've already said, and Kevin echoed it, I don't think they're bold enough to make that decision.
Yeah, it's concerning. I mean, when you look at it in so many different ways, it's hard to understand why this was the right appointment. I mean, we've talked about this before about conversations from Tisdale about when he was consulting for the team, and questions were asked of what he's doing. He's really analyzing Celtic's style of play and trying to apply that to our player buying model. Well, one, we see how that's worked out, but then to bring in a manager that has a completely different style of play, and knowing that we have the players that don't play that, it doesn't make sense in that. And then also, we've had in the recent history, I'd say 3 risky-esque signings in terms of managers. You have Nancy. You can argue that with Postecoglou, and then with Ronnie Deila. Going back to Ronnie, it was a very low risk time. Rangers were, dead, and they were reborn as a new club and coming up through the ranks. So it wasn't as much of risk for us at that point in time, especially where the league was. And you can tell that the club was kind of taking advantage of a time where we didn't have to put as much investment. Ange is seen as a risky one, but he had such a track record of success in so many different places. So he built up a lot of clout that just for unfair to him hadn't come over to the UK yet. Go back to Nancy. I mean, in America, in MLS, it's the fourth, fifth most popular sport. Even if you get mainstream media following it, it's kind of like fan media, because it's people that are just bought into the sport and excited to be talking about it. There is no pressure. There's no relegation. It's all about getting to the playoffs. It's half the reason I don't watch MLS, because I can't get into that. It's a system where there's 900 teams in the league and they split into halves and they do a playoff system. It's just, I can't get into that. It's so low risk. And then even in that environment, he kind of had a flash in the pan of success. I mean, if you look at it recent season, it just wasn't panning out for him. So there's no, I always have a feeling that sometimes Celtic brings in strikers from leagues, and I feel better about them when I say, Gary Hooper, came in from League One, but he was banging in goals at League One. Other strikers come from different countries, but they're banging in goals in other countries. They know how to find the back of the net. I get more nervous when someone comes from Germany and they've scored 3 goals in 30 games. And I know why am I talking about striker? It's more of, Ange is coming in. He's won leagues and has success and success and success. And then other managers come in with success. Other managers come with a track record. This guy's been in the game for four years in a very low risk environment, in a completely different system than we play. Throwing him into the cauldron that is Celtic, UK media, expectation, middle of the season. It's just, we shouldn't be shocked that this didn't work out. Who thought it was going to work out?
The Celtic board.
But did they?
What you're saying though, Ryan, is so true. I mean, if you take a step out of the bubble for a moment and out of the emotional filled cauldron for a second, and you say, right, we need a head of football operations. Who will we get? And you look at Paul Tisdale's CV, right? And you look at the clubs that he's been at: Bath, Exeter City for 12 years. He's the self-styled football doctor. He's developed his own data analysis system, etc., etc. He wears a cravat. And you bring him in, right? And he's your head of football operations. Of course, he's not qualified to be Celtic's head of football operations. You then give him the autonomy to identify the manager, and he goes to the MLS and he goes and gets the guy you've just described, Ryan. Of course, he's not suitable for this job. And we don't have the luxury that we probably did have when Ronnie Deila got the job. where you could play a bit of a risky game. You could bring someone in because we weren't being challenged. We are in a situation here, bringing in a new manager, where somehow Martin O'Neill pulled us out of the fire, out of the flames, got us back into a title race, got us to a cup final, gave us a decent result in the Europa League. We had to get somebody in, right, who was capable, who knew that every single game was a must-win, that a draw was a crisis, right? And what's he done? He's won 2 in 7. I mean, so as you say, who should be surprised that we are here? It's worse than I thought it would be, though, Sean. I've got to say, a lot worse than I thought it would be.
Yeah, you can lose games at any time, right? When we had Postecoglou all conquering, and we still go to New St Mirren Park at one point and lose 2-0 and look bad on the day, but it's just a blip, right? But right now the wins are the blips, right? Aberdeen coming back from Prague down to 10 men, and we struggled to beat 10-man Aberdeen. We needed a late winner. Livingston, bottom of the table, aided with a penalty. We beat them, just scraped by, and we got you and I, Paul, got dogs abuse in the comments for being too negative after those wins. And look, you have to zoom out sometimes, right? The context, we did not look good. We did not look convincing in those wins, and we have looked abysmal in the losses. So, and as I said, a loss is a loss, but that's now in the last 6 league games. So that's Nancy's had 5 league games, but the points are just it's awful, right? If you're playing, so say it's 6 domestic games, and that's 2 wins from 6 domestic games. Extrapolate that out to a season, and that's 38 points from a season. Last year, Ross County were relegated on 37 points. So we're currently in relegation form. Our form is Ross County of last year levels under Nancy. It's historically bad. And even if you take our current points total, which is 38, I'm just looking over it now, and Sevco are only 3 points behind us now. So they'll draw level with us on Saturday when they beat us, unless we change the manager. And so again, even if we look at 38 points and double that, because we're 19 games in, so double it to get for the season, 76 points for the season. That's not enough points to win a title. 76 points. I've never, since it's gone to a 38 game season, nobody's won a title on so few points. So we're not winning. Even if you take away the short term form and say just extrapolate for this whole season, we're not good enough to win this league. And yeah, it has to change. I don't know. Honestly, you could just, like I said, I've said it 3 times now, you could literally put Callum McGregor in charge and there would be an improvement in performances. Like, I don't understand if we're still sticking with this, the guy that they took 5 weeks to find and appoint, like, then it's incompetence, it's corporate malfeasance. In fact, like, I get that they are the shareholders, Dermot Desmond. He is answering to himself only, but there are other shareholders who have minority stakes in this board. Are, like, you could make a case that it's legally corporate malfeasance, and you could I don't know. Like, I don't think that there's any argument that they're doing a competent job. I don't think there's any evidence for that.
No, you're right. And here's an image from tonight. So Paul Tisdale was at the game. He was at the game tonight. He is part of Celtic's decision-making process. He was the guy that identified a manager whose assistant was Paul Tisdale's under-19s coach at Exeter City for 4 years. So Ampadu, as everybody knows. So he was at the game this evening. He's still part and parcel of the decision-making process. He needs to go. Nancy needs to follow him. We can get to the board because, I mean, they are incompetent. If, for example, Kevin, they've got it fixed, because I do think they're locked in on this. I think they're locked in. Whatever their plan is for January, they will continue to go ahead with that. We are getting into a situation, as Sean says, we're going to be nowhere near winning this league. Nowhere near it. And if that happens and Hearts win the league, that's seismic for Scottish football. That's a team getting an opportunity to tap into Champions League riches for the first time ever. Hearts. First time ever, right? And we're in a scenario there where it will take us a long time, because the structural damage to Celtic at that point means that we need a clear out in the football department. We need a clear out of the academy, which we already do know, and we need a clear out of the boardroom. So that's top to bottom, Kevin. So the only way you can try and do something this season is to try and stabilise it. At this moment in time, This is one of the like clown vehicles in cartoons where every single part of it's fallen off. The 4 wheels fell off tonight. We're not going to get going. It's like Sean says at the weekend, we're going to get beaten again. I'd be amazed if we're able to get ourselves together, get our shape together, be organised, have some kind of fluidity, some kind of game plan, and beat Rangers at the weekend. Nancy doesn't get it, does he? He doesn't get the magnitude of this job.
No, he doesn't. He really doesn't. So just with what Sean was saying there before, it was what he said was really sobering, all of it, because it was true. You know, we're in this horrible position, and it's completely self-manufactured. And then for what you're just saying there as well, Paul, if Hearts do win the league, the most generous thing I can say about that is it would be a great thing for Scottish football. That way, that someone else wins the league, it would be. But for us, it's an absolute disaster, to use one of our D words again. It would be a disaster. Because you can definitely foresee it now that we won't win the league if we're playing like this, because our form is relegation form, or at least bottom 6 level form. So that needs to change sharpish, and we've seen very little over the last 7 games to suggest that that's going to be the case. Hate to say it, can see us getting an absolute tanking at the weekend because our defence is non-existent, and we don't seem to have any real rhythm and structure going forwards. I don't see us having a Kevin Keegan style game where we'll let them score 4 but we'll score 5. There's no confidence there. There's a realistic chance now that we don't even finish second, which is unthinkable, or was at the start of the season. But now it's very thinkable, isn't it? Like we really could finish third. So that's us not winning the league. It's not getting a Champions League qualification spot. It's going into Europa League. Now that damages us massively in terms of the players that we should be able to attract to the club.
It's almost as if we're preparing for that. At the moment, it's almost as if we're preparing for that eventuality.
It feels exactly what it's like. It's kind of like
third place is Conference League.
Conference League. There you go. So
third
that's even
and
worse.
fourth place is Conference League.
Conference. Well, there you go. So that's
At least
even
we'll be
worse.
participating, though.
I was trying to paint a better picture there. So we've got Conference League, which is even worse. And yeah, it is like we're preparing for that. It's like we're somebody like Wolves, who know that they're going to get relegated to the English Premiership. So what they're doing is they'll use January to prepare for winning the Championship next season. We are now a club that looks like we've given up the ghost in this season. We're preparing for the worst, and think we're going to have to experience the worst, because I don't see any way around it. I don't see that the board will make the call to get rid of Nancy, which I think is the only thing that they can do now to save things, because it's pretty clear that players aren't buying into what he wants them to do. They look like they've lost confidence in him, and they just don't look as if they're a team on that pitch anymore.
They didn't
so
make
the manager needs to go.
Sack Rodgers when they wanted to get rid of him. They frustrated him until he resigned, right?
Yeah.
So they didn't even make that call, even though they wanted him to go. They just let him. They just pissed him off until he quit.
There's a real.
Are they going to do it to their own man that they want to stay? Of course they're not. He stays,
the problem,
and he will get backed in January, because that will be their argument as well. Is that we need to give the manager at least one transfer window. We need to give him this. We need to give him these chances. You don't, man. You don't. You see it's not working, and you just cut your losses and get rid.
Well, see, my concern. Sorry to butt in, but my concern is this: there's so many examples of the decision makers at Celtic being so off the pace. They've got this laissez-faire attitude, like, it was raised to Michael Nicholson that we should communicate more with fans, and he goes, "Yeah, I have. I've got a post-it note on my whiteboard that I should get in touch with." Wow, I mean, you're so far removed from reality that you've got a post-it on your whiteboard that you have to communicate with fans. You're the CEO of the football club, for crying out loud. And when it comes to this, they will look at us as fans, they will look at any reaction against Nancy, against this run of results, as us being spoiled and entitled. That's their attitude. You say they're going to back him in January, Kevin. I'm not sure we're going to spend money in January. I think we're already preparing for the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Now it's almost manufactured. We've manufactured we're the architects of our own downfall here. I'm going to bring in as many of these comments as I can because we're over 9,000 live. A lot of frustrated Celtic fans in the comments. Rodolfo Miroli, you're on the Facebook. Neither that result nor the performance were a surprise. How sad is that fact? I'll tell you how sad it was when we went 2-0 down. I just thought, that's it. It's done. We don't have the fight. We don't have the character. We don't have the cohesion within this team. Never mind the quality to bring that back. I'm a great guy, says PJ. It wasn't even chaos. It was just rudderless and heartless. Yeah, all the way through the club, we are rudderless. We don't have the leadership. We've been crying out for leadership. There was a point just before Peter Lawwell resigned where I said, look at the boardroom. Where's our leader? Where is our leader within the boardroom? The only one I could find was Peter Lawwell, and then he resigned. So we have no leaders because Lawwell had in his day been a massive leader at Celtic. Love him or loathe him, right? Johnny Ryan, don't let the players off the hook. The players were rotten tonight, Johnny. Rotten. As I said in the first half, Tony Ralston tried to slide tackle someone with his head. That's how dysfunctional this team is. We were rotten. Sean gave up counting the amount of times we gave away possession. That's how bad we were. But what can happen, right? And we might never see Martin O'Neill back in the dugout with that brilliant retro tracksuit on. Martin O'Neill did get a tune at the same players, Ryan. Now, I'm trying to look forward. I don't think O'Neill, even if there's a new management team and it's an internal development with Maloney, etc., I don't actually see Martin O'Neill coming back in. I don't. However, the point remains he managed to get a tune at the same players. So there is blame on the players. It looks as though some of them have chucked it. I know people in football hate hearing that. They don't like anybody saying a professional with down tools and all that. But I'm looking at Engels tonight, a guy who I've stood up for 18 months, right? And there's a moment where he's running down the left wing. He can get the ball, he just gives up.
Yep.
And there's a moment when Kasper Schmeichel passes the ball to him. Kasper's going to get all the flack because it's quite an obvious. It's like Kieran Tierney at the weekend. Kieran will get the flack for playing the pass. But where's Engels' position? His body shape's all wrong. His weight's all wrong. He's not ready to take the pass. And they get a second goal. So, yeah, there's a lot to be said about the players, Ryan. But the manager is getting nothing out of them. Martin O'Neill did.
Yeah. I mean, it does say something, too, that, I mean, my perspective is, again, Martin O'Neill's the best manager I've seen in my lifetime. I think a lot can argue he's the second best manager this club's ever seen. And he takes the second best manager in the club's history to pull this team into a place that we can string some wins together. That does say a lot. I'm frustrated with how some of the players played, but I'm not going to pile on them as much just because, again, I go back to what I said in pre-match, at halftime, was a little bit of it just seems to be this, they're not bought in or understanding what they're supposed to be doing. So they're second guessing everything. And when you're in that, you're not playing on instinct. And the game is won or lost in these split second moments. And if you don't have that and you don't know what to do and you don't know what the other player is supposed to do, I mean, we talk a lot about building partnerships in the back, and in the Postecoglou area when you had CCV and you had Starfelt, and they just knew where each other were at all times. Or how many times have you seen a goal, like going back to the O'Neill's era, where just Larson and Sutton and just they knew where each player was going to be because it's based on instinct, and they don't know where they're supposed to be. They don't know where anyone else is supposed to be. They're arguing about what that looks like, and it just deflates their confidence. And we saw that's what O'Neill got out of this team. He built them around their instinct and what gets the best out of them, and they built that confidence up. And we went to, I know Feyenoord is not the Feyenoord that we've seen in years past, but to take this team the way this team was playing in the first half of the season and go to Holland and to win in the way that we won, it just says a lot. I'm wondering if you're being hopeful that O'Neill's not coming back just because he's pre-booked on Friday. Again, it's one thing I'm kind of interested in is I know we were all getting very curious a week ago when that tweet came out that a decision's being made. And so the general consensus or understanding that people seem to believe is that a discussion was had and a number of games were given. I think it was 2. And it's been 3 games since then, correct? I'm
Yeah.
remembering.
Yeah.
And if you get and look and say, we don't have faith in your ability to move this team forward, give me 2 games. Okay, it's been 3 games. You eked out against a 10-man. I know there were moments in these games where the team played well, but you eked out against a 10-man Aberdeen who's not been playing well lately. And you toiled and looked disjointed against the worst team in the league, hasn't won since the beginning of August. And you go to Motherwell, and it might as well have been Pep era Barcelona that we were playing against.
They're strikers at AFCON as well. They're missing their best player.
Yeah.
And their centre back was ineligible to play.
Yeah.
Because he's our player on loan.
Yeah. And we're missing a $5 million player that has kicked the ball like 3 times at AFCON as well. So, just go to the corporate side of things. If this was a business, it is a business, but if it wasn't a football team, it was a business. And you said you have a month to turn things around. And this is the metrics you look at. Sorry, not good enough. That's why a decision needs to be made now, because if the answer is you're not hitting the metrics that we need to do, we'll give you more time and we'll give you a lot of money. And I thought he did a good job in the game, Michael Stewart, just kind of in terms of some of the comments he made. And he did say Nancy plays such a nuanced system that you're giving this person money to bring in players to play this nuanced system. It just screams wrong decision. So I mean, I feel like it was the wrong decision in the first place. I know hindsight being 2020, but a lot of us were scratching our heads when the decision made. It should have been called earlier. It needs to be called now. If it keeps on going on, there's I don't know. I don't see any way that this ends up well for us. The look on his face at the full-time whistle. I mean, I wonder if he has the personality himself to just go, it's not working out. I need to go. I don't know.
Well, see the thing there, you mentioned about January. A lot of people think January's a magic wand. It isn't anyway. But then you add on top of that, Ryan, the fact that it is a nuanced system whereby there's a huge risk that the players you bring in, because it's not about throwing £10 million at 2 players, because we did that with Trinecki and Balikwisha, and neither of the 2 of them have set the hell alight.
Yep.
We are going to be really scouring our data profiles to try and bring in players who can fit Nancy's particular system. And even if he does bring in 4, does it fix this?
No.
I don't think so. I mean, there's something rotten about Celtic at the moment. There's no belief system. I've seen them playing with belief and confidence and a smile on their face. I think back to that video after the Dundee game, Martin O'Neill walks into the changing room and you're thinking he just gives some belief. And that's massive at any sport. He's a leader. They're looking at Nancy. I don't think they fancy him. I don't think they rate him. I don't think he is a leader. So unfortunately for me, I agree with a lot of the comments coming through, none less so than Mr. Ewan Martin, who says Nancy must be sacked. Lucky it wasn't 6. It could have been. They tore through us so many times this evening, Ewan. We've also got Kay Mullen coming in. Board don't have the stomach to sack him. That's my worry. Well, we need to lose against Rangers, and then multiple losses close together. Organisation is a basic thing. You've just got to look at it and pull the trigger, for want of a better description. Andrew Phillips, thanks for supporting the channel. I'm going to throw this out here, lads, because we've just been beaten again. It's very disappointing. I can see the league title disappearing into the distance. And then we get Gabby Gardner jumping in and saying, go get Ange. I mean, yeah, take it all day long. Apparently he was asked the question, he was asked the question after Brendan left. He said his head was all over the place at that point. Do you go back to him, Kev? I know it's going back to the well. I know it is. But at least we know the guy's got the balls for the job.
Aye, there's a bit of in an ideal world. Why not? He was great first time around. I think he got a bit of a raw deal, to be fair, down south with the success that he ended up getting at Tottenham. He won them the first trophy in however many years it was. Okay, the league performance last season wasn't great, but he kind of admitted that he was focusing more on Europe at a point. Listen, if it was a real possibility that Ange could come back, you've got to go and ask the question again. You've got to go and bring him in. Because one of Nancy's biggest failings, as we've spoken about, is the fact that he doesn't seem to get it, what it means to be the Celtic manager. And he's never really tried to connect with the fans. And we spoke about that either before or at halftime. But Ange got it. He picked it up straight away. And within the first 3-4 months, he really grew into understanding what it meant to be a Celtic man. And we did many a podcast where we're sitting there going, this man gets it. He knows what it means. He knows what it means to win for this club. He understands the history. He understands what it means to be a fan here. So, yeah, if we can bring him back, do it. I think he would say no, if I'm being honest. And looking at the shambles that we are, he would probably be right to say no. But if there's a slim chance, ask the question at least.
We need to pull something out the hat, Sean. I mean, listen, because things are so bad at the moment, that this is maybe clutching. Do you think it's clutching, Sean, or do you ask the question? Because we do need, I think, a period of stability. So I get that maybe the internal thing might happen with Sean Maloney. And by the way, the sting of Sean Maloney getting the job has been taken out of the equation by the fact that he was part of Martin O'Neill's team. Because imagine that was a thing. Sean Maloney takes over from Brendan Rodgers. We'd have been like, oh, that's a terrible move. But the sting of that's been removed now, isn't it?
You think this is all a big psyop so that they could get Sean Maloney in? Like,
I don't think they're that bright. I don't think they're that bright.
No, like I was just looking at the table there, right? And there's like half a dozen teams you could pick out. Their manager is better than ours, right? Like, well, more than half a dozen, really. But even if you were saying, you know, which one would you bring into Celtic? Stephen Robinson, John McGlynn, David Gray. Sorry, I can't say the Motherwell manager's name. I don't want to be disrespectful. What's his name? The Motherwell manager, Bertolascu. I don't know how to say it, but anyway, so any of those guys would all be an improvement, and you can do the same with the players on the pitch as well, right? You could go through every team and be like, okay, if my choices are Shin Yamada, Johnny Kenny, or any other striker from any other team in the league, you can drop into any squad at random and pick one. Let's go to the bottom of the table. Livingston, for example. Okay, Tete Yenge. Yes, I would rather have him up front than Johnny Kenny. Or Shin Yamada. Next up, Kelly, Marley Watkins. Yes, he's an improvement. 10th place, St Mirren, Michael Mandron. He's better than our two strikers that we have at the moment. When Shin came on in that second half, he gets a shot on target, to be fair. But the first thing he does is he receives a pass in from Nygren, and he just has no awareness that there's a defender near him, and the defender just walks in and just takes the ball off him as if it was past him, almost. Like the squad is in shambles. Like, and I know we're fantasizing about getting Ange back, but there's like, you can barely do worse at the moment. Like it's an absolute. It's almost the same. Like signing players, bringing in a manager. It'd be hard to go backwards. It'd be like it would be like you could disguise it as competence. An improvement from here would be like you could see, look, point at it and go, look, an improvement. That is competence. Because that is just how abjectly, historically bad we are at the moment. The four losses in a row, first time since the 70s. Lost a cup final by 2 clear goals, first time since Partick Thistle beat us 4-1 in 1972. Everything that we're doing, this is the first time Motherwell beat us in the league at Fir Park since 2013.
We're breaking all the records, mate.
Where it's a historical time for Celtic. How many games have we lost this calendar year? Is it 17 or something? 18? I've lost count. So, like, we are historically bad. So, we're talking about Ange. You could pick almost anyone. Like, you could go to that drawer of CVs that Peter Lawwell has in his desk that I'm sure he's leaving behind from when he appointed Neil Lennon in the shower. Just randomly shuffle them, pick one out. It would probably be a better appointment than what we've got. It would take the team forward. That is just where we're at. Any change from here is going to look like a competent decision, when in fact it might not be. It's harder to get worse.
I'm going to ask you the final question, Ryan. In 14 hours time, I will be going live tomorrow for the final Acsom Bulletin of the year. Will anything have changed by then? In the next 14 hours, do we have the chutzpah as a football club to make a bold change?
History says no. That's my answer.
Well, if I'm going to be sitting here in 14 hours' time, it will be with a dose of regret. Looking back at 2025, normally, you know, you look at all your high points, you look at your Spotify playlist and all the different highlights of the year, and we'll be looking at a Celtic team who were a whisker away from winning a treble and progressing beyond Bayern Munich to tonight. And one of the worst performances I can remember in modern times. I've got to thank, though, everybody for tuning in. Over 10,000, mainly Celtic fans. There's a few trolls in there. Sorry, guys. There's so many comments coming through. I can't ban every single one. Call them out. Keep calling them out. And when I see them, I will ban them. But most of you guys are genuine. You've come in and you've come in for the chat because you know what? Celtic TV, I think, went off 90 seconds after the final whistle. They can't face it. They can't face talking about it. We can every single time, win, lose or draw. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and join us in 14 hours' time on a Celtic State of Mind.